let's keep going. So, good afternoon. Everybody can hear me now? Great. Okay. My name is Michelle Macias. I'm a law librarian with the Department of Justice, DOJ Libraries. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about federal laws, how they're published, and where to find them for free. Then I'll discuss secondary sources and tell you why they're useful for exploring the meaning behind federal laws and where you can find them, again, at no cost to you. So before I get started, Monica, since you are our our audience, I just want to ask, have you watched any of our previous recordings for part 1 and part 2? Great, awesome, you watched part 1. Okay, let me ask just one more quick question. Have you had to help patrons search for information on federal laws before? Okay, then this session is going to be right on target for you. So, moving on. Let's get started. So, we're talking about federal laws. These are laws that are enacted by Congress. So, once a bill is passed, which can sometimes be a lengthy process, the clerk or the secretary of the Senate, wherever the bill originated in that body, so whether it's the clerk of the House or the secretary of the Senate, they deliver the enrolled bill to a clerk at the White House and they get a receipt that that bill's been delivered. This begins a 10-day constitutional period for presidential action. That bill will become law upon approval of the president, and he can simply write the word approved on it, or sign it with remarks and issue a presidential signing statement. Now, because of the way our Constitution is drafted, there are other options to consider that enact the law. So, for example, if 2/3 of the House of Representatives and Senators support a bill and the president has vetoed it, that veto is overridden and the bill becomes law. If Congress is in session and the president ignores it, the bill will automatically become law after 10 days. So the reason I'm just throwing this example in there about the different ways a bill can be enacted into law is because there are a lot of nuances when it comes to bills being enacted. Later on in this session, I'll share with you some of the resources that can help you figure out some of those nuances. Public laws are enacted, well, they're published in a 3-part model. You have slip laws, session laws, and codification. Slip laws are individually paginated pamphlets containing a single statute or law for both public and private laws. Session laws are the official compilation of laws of each session of Congress, so it's the overarching compilation of all those slip laws. Codified means laws that are passed by Congress that are of a general and permanent nature. They are compiled into 2 codes, the United States Code and the Revised Statutes of the United States. We'll talk about the United States Code as we move along. The Revised Statutes of the United States are the predecessor to the United States Code. So slip laws. As I mentioned, this is the first publication of a federal law. Each law is published as an individual pamphlet by the public law number. That public law number has 2 parts, the number of the Congress in which it was enacted and a sequentially assigned number. So, for example, Public Law 108-45 is the 45th law, sequentially, passed during the 108th Congress. Slip laws cover both public and private laws. And what do I mean? The difference between public and private laws is that public laws affect society as a whole. Private laws affect an individual, a family, or a small group, and they're enacted to assist citizens who've been injured by government programs or who are appealing an executive agency ruling. So where can you find slip laws? Free access. One of the things you can do is check your local federal depository library for a print version. And here I've linked to the list of federal depository libraries in the state of Colorado. Your library might even be a depository library. The Government Printing Office website, govinfo.gov, also hosts public and private laws in slip format. They have them from the 104th Congress, which is around 1995, 1996, to the present. And I've included both because there's two different links you can use if you go back and you decide to use this presentation in the PowerPoint format. Then we have the Library of Congress website, congress.gov. There you can find slip laws from the 93rd Congress, which is 1973 and 74 to the present. Session laws. The second part of that publication process is the session laws. So the slip laws are sequentially compiled into an annual federal session law volume. These are known as the United States Statutes at Large, and I'll just mention them as statutes at large going forward. Here the citation for the law changes a little bit. The statutes at large citation refers to the volume of the statutes at large in which the law was published and the page on which it starts. Again, it includes both public and private laws. It also has a subject index at the back of each volume. So where can you find U.S. statutes at large for free? On the web. Library of Congress has them from 1789 to 1950. And govinfo.gov has them from 1951 to 2011. So codification. The Office of Law Revision Counsel, acronym OLRC, which I may use throughout this session, or I may just say it, and the U.S. House of Representatives is responsible for maintaining and publishing the U.S. Code. The OLRC oversees the organization of statutes by subject matter. So here's where it changes. And it assigns a statute to the U.S. Code section if the law has general applicability and permanence. So what does that mean, general applicability and permanence? Aren't all laws permanent? Well, the term positive law means those that pertain to the code. Now, the literal description means laws established by humans, but in this case, positive law, it just means those that are assigned to the code. The language of a law as set forth in the U.S. Code is not necessarily a literal duplication of the law as it was enacted. Because the U.S. Code is arranged by subject, so there are 53 different titles, they're all ranged by subject. Some examples of those subjects are transportation, aviation, banking, copyright, education, railroads, shipping, voting and elections, education. Those are just a few. The slip law is divided among titles with different sections being assigned to different volumes. That's because there are different subjects. What's helpful to know about searching the U.S. Code is that there are a variety of ways you can do it. It has a general index, it has a popular name table, it has a classification table, It has a section for revised titles, so it shows if a law has been revised or updated. It also has the statutes at large. So if you have a statutes at large citation, which we talked about earlier, you can find out whether or not the law has been codified. And then it includes executive orders and proclamations. Where can you find access to the U.S. Code? As I mentioned, the Office of the Law Revision Council, they're the ones who codify it. They have a fantastic website. They've got the code, they've got a great explanation for the code, they go into detail about general and permanent laws, etc. So it's absolutely a wonderful site. Again, govinfo.gov. They have the code from 1994 to the present. It includes a really good explanation, too, about how and when the code is published and how it's structured. The Law Library of Congress has the code available from 1925, which was its inception, to 1988 with supplements. Cornell Legal Institute provides an updated interface to the U.S. Code with links to notes and legislative activities through congress.gov, so it links up. It also hosts a variety of search options and has a popular name table. Justia has access to the code from 1994 to the present. So there's a good number of ways you can get to the U.S. Code and research it online. I'm just going to mention there are subscription services you may have heard of. Westlaw hosts what's referred to as the United States Code Annotated. Lexis hosts the United States Code Service. Hein Online is another subscription database that hosts public law resources. But again, for this session, I'm just going to focus on resources that are free and on the web and available to you. So let's talk about resources for finding those statutes based on what you know about the law. So for example, do you know the public law number? Perhaps all you know is a bill number. You may know the name of the law or just the subject of the law. So I'm starting with where you'll want to look if you already know the public or private law number or that statutes at large citation. So print. You may be able to find print in a public library or law library, but we know you can definitely find it online. GovInfo from 1951 to 2011 is a good place to go for the statutes at large if you know the public or private law number. Congress.gov has the statutes at large online from 1789 to 2011. So if you need something from way back, it's an excellent resource to go to. So before I move on, I just want to ask, have you used the statutes at large before, Monica? No. Interesting. Okay. Well, it's going to now be one of your new best friends, I can say for sure. Okay. So where can you find a law if you know the name of the law? So again, here we have the statutes at large. That's an excellent place to go if you know the name of a law. But there are three great online resources that you can use. The Legislation, Popular Titles, and Short Titles. This is a resource by congress.gov, Library of Congress, and it has public laws available from 1973, which is the 93rd Congress, to about 2015-16. So there is always a little bit of a lag in them catching up. and that would be the 114th Congress. So you know the name of the law. The popular name tool, which is available on the Office of the Law Revision Council website, is another excellent tool. It's exactly what it says, popular name of the law. You can search or browse the U.S. Code tables of acts as they are cited by popular name. So that's another really good resource. Another resource, when you know the name of the law, is the statute compilations. This is an online tool hosted by the House of Representatives Office of Legislative Counsel, and it includes frequently requested compilations of those public laws that either do not appear in the U.S. Code or that have been classified to a title in the code that's not been enacted into positive law. So those are great places to go when you know the name of the law. Where do you look when you want to see the text of a law as it was originally passed by Congress and you know the subject but nothing else? So again, the statutes at large is your go-to resource. You can use the index, whether you're using it online or you're using it in print. When you know the subject and that's all you know, it'll help get you there. So if you want to find the law as codified in the United States Code and you know the public or private law number, again, the print volume of the statutes at large, it has tables in the United States Code, you can use that. And online, you'd use the same thing, statutes at large table to the United States Code if you know the public or private law number. So when you want to locate the laws codified and you know the name of the law. So again, we're back to that popular name table. It's available in the U.S. Code. Online, there's the popular name tool, which is available on the Office of Law Revision Council website. And those other two resources I've mentioned, again, you may not have access to, but the United States Code Annotated in Westlaw or the United States Code Service in Lexis. And when you want to locate the laws codified in the United States Code and you know the subject but nothing else, so again, we're going back to that index. There's an index in the United States Code. You can search it if you have access to it in print, and you can also search it on the OLRC website. So now I'm going to take a few minutes and I just want to point out some of the resources available for finding legislative history materials that accompany the law. Oftentimes you'll hear people say, oh, what's the legislative history? Or I need that legislative history. This is where all of the different pieces that go into the making of that law come into play. So here we'll see a variety of resources, again, for free, and I've broken them down by type. So for bills, we've got the American Memory. This is a really nice resource because it's got coverage that goes way back again. So they have House bills from 1799 to 1873. They have Senate bills from 1819 to 1873, and they also have Senate joint resolutions from 1823 to 1873. A couple other places you can go for bills. Bill summaries are available on congress.gov from 1973 to the present, and you can search by bill number, so that makes it easy. And govinfo.gov has them from 1993 to the present. If you're looking for hearings, GovInfo has hearings from 1985 to the present. For committee reports, so that would include your House committee reports, your Senate committee reports, and your House conference reports, those are available on govinfo.gov from 1995 to the present, and on congress.gov from 1990 to the present. If you're looking for debates, congress.gov has the congressional record, which houses the debates from 1995 to the present. The Register of Debates, that's going to take us back in time when we're researching those older laws. This is a Library of Congress resource. It also includes the Annals of Congress, which preceded the Congressional Record, and the Congressional Globe, also preceding the Congressional Record. Coverage is from the 18th Congress, second session, through the 25th Congress, first session. So 1789 to 1873, and you need to go way back in time. Presidential signing statements. There are two different places you can go for these. The American Presidency Project is one. They have signing statements from 1929 to the present. And the compilation of presidential documents. For this, coverage is from 1993 to the present. Just spend a few minutes talking about bill and issue tracking. So these are ways that help you stay informed about what's happening to a bill as it's passing through Congress. You might hear it referred to as bill tracking. cspan.org, they host live video of congressional proceedings. Another one is govtrack.us. This is an online tool to track activities in Congress. What's nice about this one is they have email alerts, and also RSS feeds are available, so whichever one you prefer. govinfo.gov, they have all published versions updated daily of the bills. You can search or browse a list, so these are current bills. And what do I mean by published versions? Well, a bill, one law, can have quite a few bills related to it, and a bill can have related bills. Most of the time, they're on the same topic. You can have several bills in the House on one topic, several bills moving through the Senate, and sometimes by the time a law is enacted, you could have 3, 4, 10 or more bills that are associated with that law. So if you know a law and you need to find out what bills were associated with it, this is a good place to go. And then congress.gov hosts bill summary and status alerts, also the congressional record, schedules, calendars, and more. So has anybody ever used any of these bill and issue tracking resources? Okay, so we have people who've used C-SPAN. Yeah, it's quite interesting to watch. So I just want to spend a few minutes here and going back to when I started and I was talking about all the ways that once a law is passed in Congress, or the bill, and it gets to the White House, all the different variations of what can happen to that bill. Well, the resources I have here, these are really good for helping you understand not only the general process about how laws are made, but also some of the more complex ways that our laws are made or enacted. And that's why I'm sharing these with you. It's never as cut and dry as, the bill gets introduced, it goes through the House, the Senate, they vote, and it's passed. It may seem like it's supposed to be that simple, but it's not. So the first one, enactment of a law. This is information about the forms of legislative business, contrasting procedures in the House and Senate because they do things differently. It hosts information about committee rules, about motions, about quorums, votes, the amendment process, and details about presidential actions, which I used as an example earlier, and more. How our laws are made. This is personally one of my favorites. You can actually download it in a PDF format. I do that, and I keep a copy on my desk because every once in a while I get this question where once I think I'm fully versed on how everything happens in Congress and how bills are passed and laws are made, that throws me a loop, right? And I have to refer to it. So it's an excellent resource for that. It discusses Congress, forms of congressional action, of which there are many, considerations by committee, reported bills, variations about obtaining considerations of measures, information about considerations in debate. Again, it covers those presidential actions, and it also has some great information about slip laws, statutes at large, and the U.S. Code, which is what I've covered here. The Glossary of Congressional Terminology. I like this resource because I don't always know what the congressional terminology means. What is a rider? What is scorekeeping? Well, I know what those two things mean for baseball and soccer, but that doesn't mean I know what it means when it comes to legislation. So if I'm unclear about a term, any term, for example, and I need to know, let's say, what the reconciliation process is, I can find the answer to it on this website. The legislative process by congress.gov. This is an online video, and you can either watch it in its entirety or you can watch it just by section if you have a particular section of interest to you. Common abbreviations and legal citation examples for selected federal documents. Has anybody out there ever worked in federal documents? Okay, so somebody just learned about them in a session at CU's Boulder Library. Yeah, there are a lot of citations and numbers when it comes to government documents. This is a tool by the Law Librarian Society of Washington, D.C., and it's great for figuring out legal citations and federal document citations. We didn't cover that much in this session. It's not really what we are covering, except to talk about the assigning of citations for a public law or the statutes at large. But I can say I've been a law librarian for many years, and I still come up with citations or find citations I'm not familiar with, or an attorney has asked me to confirm the correct citation for some type of legal document. So this is an excellent resource for that. So before we move on to secondary sources, are there any questions about what we've covered? Okay, it is a lot of content. Hopefully it's sort of breaking down those some of the what sometimes seems like a complicated process. And I'm hoping this will be a great resource for you after the session's over if you come back to it. All right, so moving on to secondary sources. So these include a wide variety of resources. You've got legal dictionaries, encyclopedias, periodicals and law reviews and law journals. I'll talk about those. Legal treatises, American law reports, and restatements. But why is a secondary source important? Well, a secondary source is sometimes referred to as a secondary authority. It's not something that you would cite in a court document. You'd want primary authority for that. But secondary sources can be immensely useful in a number of ways. First, they help explain complex legal topics. Second, they can lead you to that relevant primary law. I'll just touch a bit on where you can find them, and then I'll go into detail as we move through each type of secondary resource. So I would always say check your public library. They may have a few secondary legal resources in print. They tend to have books from NOLO and the Nutshell series. And when I mention NOLO, all I'm simply talking about is a publisher of legal do-it-yourself software and books. Some libraries may have a legal information reference center as part of a database package. And Justia is another place to go. We'll talk about that, and law.com, but I'll get into that as we move along. So legal dictionaries. Some of the more common legal dictionaries include Black's Law Dictionary, NOLO's Plain English Law Dictionary, Ballantyne's Legal Dictionary and Thesaurus, Merriam-Webster's Dictionary of Law, and Words and Phrases. So again, you may find some of these in your public library, and you would most likely find them in a law library. And I'll talk in a few minutes about a few law libraries in Colorado that are open to the public. As for free resources online, law.com has a free online legal dictionary, and WEX is an online resource hosted by the Cornell Legal Information Institute. They also host a free online dictionary. And before I move on, I just want to mention a little bit more about law.com. It's a great place to go. The site has information on over 100 legal topics. So if you're unsure about family law or elder law, evidence, legislation, telecommunications, you can go there and just start to familiarize yourself with that topic of the law. They also have the law as it pertains to industries. So think about accounting, insurance, healthcare, consumer products. It is primarily fee-based, but access to those legal topics and industry areas is free. And if you register as a user, you're allowed to download 3 free articles a month. Some of these legal on-site resources do that. It's like you can register, you get 2, 3, maybe 5 free articles. So I always encourage people to do that if it's something that you might need access to. The other resource I mentioned here that's not really a dictionary is Words and Phrases, but it's a useful source because it's similar to a dictionary. It provides you with definitions of legal and non-legal terms. It can also help you find out if a court or a specific court has ever defined a term or a phrase. Legal encyclopedias. So here you can see some of the more popular legal encyclopedias: American Jurisprudence, Corpus Juris Secundum, Gale Encyclopedia of American Law. Some of these you would be able to find in a public library, especially something like Gale Encyclopedia of American Law. And why are they useful? Well, encyclopedias in law are useful for the same reason they're useful in any discipline, science, literature, etc. The encyclopedia's index or table of contents, whether in print or online, it can help you find relevant articles or sections about topics of the law or a term that you're researching. It may be easiest if you've got access to it in print first, even if the print version is out of date, to help you understand how the encyclopedia is structured, and then move your search online once you find relevant sections. And I also want to point out, once you find a relevant section, it's always good to browse the sections before and after, because oftentimes they're all somewhat interrelated as you're moving through the encyclopedia. So again, public libraries may have legal encyclopedias. Law libraries definitely have a variety of legal encyclopedias. And WEX, that resource I'd mentioned in the last slide about dictionaries, they offer a free online legal encyclopedia. So periodicals. You'll often hear people refer to a law review or a law journal. Really, they're, in a sense, what we understand as a periodical. These can include special interest periodicals, association journals, legal newspapers, and various types of newsletters. Some of the places where you can go to find free resources online are Justia. This site, it offers you links to law schools, and then from there subsequently law school journals, because law schools have 1 or 2 journals that they publish. The Social Science Research Network. This is a site where you'll need to create an account to download articles, but there's no cost associated with it. And you can search by discipline. It covers a variety of civil and criminal justice areas and legal scholarship. And in my job, I use this resource regularly, even though I have access to probably most every law journal and review there is out there. So it is really a wonderful site for research. And there are other disciplines too outside of law, so you may want to take a look at it. SSRN. The Law Review Commons. This is the largest collection of free and open law review scholarship on the web. Free full text online review and journal search. So this is a free search engine that searches the full text of over 300 online law reviews and law journals. What's nice about it is it also hosts a document repository of academic papers and related publications, such as Congressional Research Service reports. And as I mentioned earlier, law.com, you can get 3 free articles there a month. One other source that I mentioned earlier is, it could be that your public library, I know the Pikes Peak Public Library has it, there's the Legal Information Reference Center database. It's part of an EBSCO database. So moving on to legal treatises, nutshells, hornbooks, and desk books. Sometimes it seems confusing that they're using all these different terms, but essentially these are books in a sense. But there's a little bit different spin, because a treatise is a book or a set of books on a legal topic. They're written by experts. And you may find that your patrons sometimes get confused between a treatise and a treaty. I know you know that a treatise is a scholarly book or a set of books about a legal topic, and that a treaty is a primary source legal agreement between countries, but sometimes our patrons might get a little confused by that. These are some of the more popular titles: Criminal Law in a Nutshell, Principles of Employment Law, Constitutional Law, a Civil Procedure Desk Book. This is a great place to start when you know nothing about a topic. And they're useful because they comprehensively cover a legal subject, and they cite useful primary and secondary sources. They also have really helpful tools such as indexes, tables of cases cited, appendices, and forms, although those vary from treatise to treatise. They're normally written by lawyers or law professors. You'll find that they vary in length from a single volume to 20 volumes. They're updated regularly. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing research is consider the date of the treatise and the time frame of law that you're researching, just because treatises are continually updated. So it's important to determine the age of a treatise you're using, especially if you're looking for current information and you're using a treatise from 20 years ago. There could be quite a lag. Some treatises, they're printed in, they're issued in a binder format called a loose leaf. This just allows for easy updating of pages as the law changes. Others may have pocket parts or annual supplements. Some, however, are only updated when a new edition is published. So where can you find them? Check your public library. Law libraries, I do have a slide I'll show you here after I finish this section with law libraries in the state of Colorado that are open to the public. And if you have access to it, that Legal Information Reference Center hosted by EBSCO. So I'm just going to touch on the American Law Reports and Restatements. The American Law Reports are often referred to as ALRs. That's, people just throw out that acronym freely. They contain articles called annotations, which provide in-depth information about case law and federal statutes when relevant. It also covers topics across multiple jurisdictions. So now you've got coverage of both state and federal jurisdictions. Again, it's written by attorneys who are practicing in the area at issue. So you've got experts who are writing about it. The best way to search these, both online and in print, is to use the index. Restatements of the law are another highly regarded common law product or publication. They're produced by the American Law Institute. This is an organization comprised of prominent American judges, laws, and professors. Each restatement is arranged by chapter, and then topic and title, and then by a section. The appendix of the volumes of each set contains annotated citations of cases that cite to particular restatement. So again, where could you find these? You may find them in a large public library, but most likely you'll need to visit, or if it's a patron that you're helping, recommend they visit a law library open to the public. All right. So I mentioned that I'd point out some of the places you can go for help or resources. All of the libraries on this site, on this slide, are open to the public, with the exception of the Westminster Law Library, which is part of Denver University. It's not open to the public, but it is open to attorneys and employees of attorneys. So these are great places to go if they're near you. And I've also included, again, federal depository libraries. They're another good place to check. So I just want to ask, because these are the only libraries I know of that are open to the public, have any of you visited these libraries, or do you know of other law libraries that I haven't listed here. The Supreme Court Library. That is a good point. And oh yeah, the Colorado Supreme Court Library, yep. Okay. So that's my quick overview of secondary sources. So now that I've covered both federal laws, a little bit about how they're published, where you can find them online depending on what you know about the law, secondary sources, why they're important, where you can find them, where you can go for help if you don't have access to them. That brings me to the end of my session, but I just want to ask if there are any questions. I know it's a lot of material.
And Michelle, if you don't mind, I'll take your slides and I can turn them into a PDF and post them to the CSL in Session website as well as the archive. That way people have access to live links from the slides. The links will also be live within the archive of the session, so people can go back and revisit either one at any time.
Excellent. I would appreciate that. Well, thank you all very much.
I was going to say, just Josh and Monica, were there any questions you were hoping to get answered in today's session that maybe we didn't cover? We still have a few minutes, so if there was something specific you were looking for, we might be able to address it before we sign off for today. I see that Monica's typed. All right. Well, if there are no questions, I really want to thank Michelle for providing all of this really great information, especially all of the resources that she talked about, paying special attention to free resources, because, public libraries are always kind of strapped for funds in terms of resources. So hopefully this will become a resource via the archive for people to come back and visit all of the great things that Michelle talked about. And I want to thank the Colorado Association of Law Libraries in general for coming to me with this idea for a 3-part series. Once again, once I get the archive posted today, all 3 sessions will be available. I know that we've already had over 100 people go back and view the first session. So once again, hopefully this will be a great resource moving forward. In just a minute, I'll put my email in the chat just in case either of you need a certificate for attending today. As stated, the recording will hopefully be available in about an hour on the CSL in Session website, which I will bring up here. We do have a quick survey also for you guys to fill out. You can actually click the link on the slide, and I'll post it in chat also, once again, to try to get an idea of what you thought about today's session, other information that maybe you might be looking for. And our next CSL in Session is going to be on Tuesday, May 7th. We're going to discuss the 2-generation approach to poverty with my colleague Beth Christ. And then on May 14th, we're going to have the second in the Supporting Developing Readers at the library. And this time we're going to focus on literacy-based programs. So once again, thank you guys for attending today's session, and a big thank you to Michelle for providing all of this great information. Oh, thanks, Josh. That's great. You like to learn about different ways to help patrons. Don't get a lot of questions, but they can be hard. Yeah, so this will maybe give you a place that you can pop into and sort of see what you might be able to provide.
Well, and thank you both, Josh and Monica, and also Christine for hosting it. And I'm glad that the session was helpful. It can be overwhelming when you don't know a particular area of research, especially law, but hopefully you've got some takeaway tools to help you today. And if you ever get stuck, you've got my email address. Please don't hesitate. Reach out and say, hey, where can I get this, Michelle? I'd be happy to help.
All right. Well, with that, I will wish everybody a great